could Iowa have found its next great big man via the transfer portal? Fran McCaffrey making a hard push for a Utah Valley State big man. I'll give you all the information you need to stay on top of what is a very intriguing recruitment coming up in a moment. But first, a reminder, if you've not already done so, please hit the subscribe button here at From the Hawkeye of the Storm. Regular content, including live programming, call-in shows, post-game shows, and more. Subscribe here, like this video, please. And if you're interested in sponsoring this show, please reach out to me. I'll throw the email up here, from the eye of the storm at outlook.com. From the eye of the storm at outlook.com to inquire about sponsorship. All right, so the recruitment Hawkeye fans, Hawkeye basketball fans have their eyes on right now is the recruitment of big man Fardaws Aimaq, the 6'11", 245-pound big out of Utah Valley State. And I want to kind of give you a rundown of who Fardaws is, because first of all, there's been a lot out there, a lot of discussion on social media, a lot of schools getting involved with this kid. I'm going to give you everything you need to know as of right now, April 11th, as I record this. So first of all, Fardaws is the only big man that I have heard Iowa solidly connected to via the transfer portal, which tells me Fran is going big or going home. Now, if they don't land Fardaws, he'll get somebody. He's been very matter of fact about that they're out there to get a big man in the transfer portal, although some of these guys are already making decisions. So Fran is going out all out on this guy, and for good reason. Fardaws, again, at Utah Valley State this past season, averaged 19 points, 14 rebounds, shot 49% from the field, which is okay. That's not a great percentage for a 7-footer. But 46% from 3 on 20 makes, that's not too bad. He's not going to shoot a real high volume. Again, just 20 makes in the season. Well, when he does, he's efficient. 72% from the free throw line. Compare that to his 2020 stats. So the previous season, 2020, 2021, he averaged 14 points, 15 boards. So his boards went down a board. But boy, how can you really improve on 15 boards a game? 49% from the field, 62% from the free throw line. So he increased his free throw percentage by 10% over the course of 2 seasons. Now, Fardaws is originally from Afghanistan, and that is how you pronounce his name, Fardaws Aimaq. It's not Aimaq, it's not Aimaq, it's Aimaq, all right? Fardaws Aimaq, so the Aimaq attack. Originally from Afghanistan, grew up in Canada, interestingly enough. Went to prep school in Canada, postgraduate school in Maine. He's kind of been all over the place. He then went to play his first year of collegiate basketball at Mercer. So Iowa fans may be familiar with Mercer. Tyler Goodson's brother has played football at Mercer. So there's a connection there. Didn't do a whole lot at Mercer, actually. Jumped on the scene at Utah Valley State. That's really why he didn't have a ton of recruitment out of high school or out of Mercer. But transfers to Utah Valley State, and again, just erupts. Now, the critical way of looking at this is he's playing at Utah Valley State. Yeah, he's putting up 14, 15 boards a game, but what's he going to do against Big Ten competition? And I think we need to throw that disclaimer out there right off the bat that nobody's expecting him to get 15 boards a game in the Big Ten. I've said this for seasons, and I think that's probably well backed up. The Big Ten is home to the best big men in the country, not named Oscar Tshiebwe. Okay? You look at Zach Edey, you look at Trevion Williams, look at Kofi Coburn. Liam Robbins was at Minnesota a year or two ago. You've got Luka Garza from Iowa. You can go down the list. I mean, Purdue's always got somebody, whether it be A.J. Hammonds or Isaac Haas. Obviously Maryland's had some good big men. But my point is a lot of those guys are moving on. Now, we don't know the status of Coburn. Could he return? Certainly he could end up coming back. He doesn't really have an outside shot, which hurts his chances at the NBA level. Same with Zach Edey. Trevion Williams is gone. I think it's an opportunity. Now, the kid from Rutgers is still there. He's a big man that's going to probably be one of the best in the Big Ten, maybe in the country next season. But for the most part, a lot of those big guys that were kind of the face of the league for several seasons have moved on. That would give an opportunity for someone like Aimaq to come in and have immediate success. But here's the deal. At Utah Valley State, yes, he averaged 19 and 14 this past season. I want to give you a couple examples of schools, or games, I should say, where he performed against Power 5 or high major competition, I should say. The first one, 2020 against Utah, he had just 7 points, 9 rebounds. Okay, that's his first season at Utah. It's a Pac-12 team. They lose. He has 7-9. At St. John's the same season, he gets 13 boards on the road at St. John's in a loss, paired with 10 points. So pretty respectable. Get 13 boards on the road against a Big East team. That's impressive. 2021 this past season against Washington in less than 30 minutes of play. By the way, Utah Valley State won that game at Washington. And I get it. Washington wasn't great, but they weren't terrible. Fardaws goes 15-15. 15 points, 15 boards at Washington in a win. All right. Against BYU. And by the way, the Cougars, BYU was number 12 in the country at the time. Utah Valley State beats BYU. And Fardaws goes for 24 and 22. Yes, 24 points and 22 flipping rebounds. All right. So this guy's going to produce. Now I know BYU can say, well, they're not Power 5. That's fine. That's a high major program. Again, they were number 12 in the country at the time. I'm not saying he's going to average 15 points or 15 rebounds a game or even 15 points a game. I don't know that. But those numbers are going to translate somewhat. There's a reason why virtually everybody in the country wanted this kid. Now, Fardaws, actually, interestingly enough, Fardaws released, this was when he first announced he was entering the transfer portal. He released basically like people were calling it a top 26. He released all the schools that were after him. Now, I want to read you through these different schools who had at least made contact with Fardaws Aimaq. Georgia Tech, Oklahoma, Alabama, Wichita State, Ole Miss, Kentucky, Wazoo, Gonzaga, Texas, Arizona, Seton Hall, West Virginia, Texas Tech, Maryland, Tennessee, Arizona State, Virginia Tech, Miami, Arkansas, Florida, Texas A&M, Marquette, Houston, Washington, Iowa. He also put his name in the NBA draft, and I'm sure there's more schools out there. But I mean, look at the big names there: Gonzaga, Kentucky, Houston, Texas Tech. Those are all, championship caliber teams. So he's basically wanted by everybody. So listen, he's one of, if not the highest rated big men in the transfer portal, probably the biggest, the highest rated center in the portal this offseason, at least so far. Now, if Zach Edey were to enter, maybe he would rival Fardaws, but I know it's a different conversation with Edey coming out of Purdue. I don't expect him to transfer. It sounds to me like all the rumblings I've heard sounds to me like Fardaws is probably going to go somewhere to play at least one more year. I know he entered his name in the draft. He's got an opportunity to keep it in there and go pro. But I would just have to think, given all the hoopla with recruitment, I know he's got visits scheduled, including to Iowa. My guess is that he is probably going to be going to school for one more year. I think his game probably needs that offensively, would be my guess. And I'm sure the league would like to see him playing at the Big Ten level or the Power 5 level. And I will say this, an advantage for Iowa, to be able to get him in the Big Ten and to be able to hype up the fact that, look, you're not only playing for a school that just produced Luka Garza, you're also playing in a conference that has produced all those big men that I brought up earlier. So that's an advantage for Iowa. I do want to read you, those are the top 20. I read you the top 26, or at least the 26 schools that had been rumored to be interested in Fardaws. Jeff Borzillo, who is a writer for ESPN, college basketball writer, he said this a few days ago. He said Utah Valley's transfer Fardaws Aimaq tells ESPN he's been focused on Kentucky, Gonzaga, Texas Tech, Washington, Houston, Arkansas, Iowa, Arizona, and Texas. Okay, so that's what Borzillo had to say. There were also reports that he was down to 6 or 7 schools, and the schools that keep coming up: Washington, Houston, Texas Tech, Arkansas, Iowa. Now, Arkansas has just landed a pair of twins recently from the East Coast, transfers that are, one guy is 6'8", 6'9", the other one's about 6'9", 6'10". That might take them out of the mix. Arkansas has been red hot on the recruiting trail. We know the advantages of those other schools have over Iowa, specifically Texas Tech and Houston. They've won in the postseason, and that would give them an advantage. But as far as producing big men, I'd have to think that Iowa would probably be at the top of that list. Now, report from Jake Weingarten, who is the founder of StockRisers.com. He reported that he will be visiting Iowa in the coming weeks. Jake also reported that he would be visiting Washington, Houston, Texas Tech, and Arkansas. There was also a report that Iowa went and visited Fardaws here this past weekend. So I guess in summary of all this, I know we've been talking for the last 10 minutes or so. I was pushing hard for this kid, and Fran's not had a problem going out and basically saying as much. They're going all in on Fardaws Aimaq. And I want to give you a couple other tidbits about Fardaws in case you still have doubts. He was the 2020-2021 WAC Player of the Year. His first year in the league, he was the WAC Player of the Year. 2-time All-WAC, 2-time Defensive Player of the Year, 2-time WAC All-Defense. This kid is the real deal. Athletically, he's not going to blow off the charts. He's not going to blow off the page, I should say. I will say I watched quite a bit of Utah Valley State's game against BYU. I watched them against Washington, and he's just tough. I mean, he's got a knack for rebounding the ball. If I was going to compare him to anybody, and I know this is kind of a cop-out in a way, but I was going to compare him to anybody, it wouldn't be Luka Garza. It'd be more like a shooting version of Reggie Evans. Because like Reggie Evans is the only guy that I can remember, certainly at Iowa, with that great of a knack for rebounding the basketball. Now, Adam Woodbury was a good rebounder. Luka Garza was a good rebounder. But Fardaws looks like an elite rebounder. And I'm not saying he's going to end up being the NBA player that Reggie Evans was, because he was extremely successful at that level. But I do think he's got a better shot. He can shoot from behind the three-point line, which Reggie did not have in his game. So this is an interesting recruitment, folks. We'll probably know something in the coming 2 to 3 weeks would be my guess. Maybe this will stretch out further and longer. Gonzaga may be the best program, not named Kentucky, amongst the schools that have been interested in Fardaws. So all you need to know about Fardaws Aimaq, stick right here from the Hawkeye of the Storm, because future live shows and more programming on the transfer portal, who Iowa's going after in said portal, and much more right here from the Hawkeye of the Storm. Also follow me on Twitter at From the Hawkeye on Twitter for the latest about Hawkeye Nation and our live Hawkeye programming right here from the Hawkeye of the Storm, and also over at our sister channel, Iowa Football, at the Voice of College Football on YouTube. Have a great night.